Have you ever wondered if there's one prophetic passage that ties together everything Scripture reveals about the last days? This isn't an exaggeration. Every significant prophetic milestone, every calculated period, every element of the biblical framework concerning future events, they all connect to one remarkable vision delivered to a faithful prophet during the Babylonian captivity approximately 26 centuries ago. Biblical scholars refer to it as Daniel's 70 weeks. And here's what captures my attention about this passage. Numerous respected theologians and historians observe that this prophecy appears to identify a measurable time frame pointing toward the Messiah's arrival. Not ambiguous symbolism, an actual period that invites historical investigation. The level of detail is extraordinary. But here's the aspect that escapes most casual readers. This prophetic timeline hasn't reached its conclusion. There's a remaining portion, a 7-year segment that many biblical interpreters believe awaits future fulfillment. And the prophetic sequence that entered a holding pattern nearly 20 centuries ago could resume according to God's sovereign timing. Let me establish the context for you. Daniel has lived a long life, probably approaching 90 years. This faithful servant has experienced remarkable circumstances. He observed Babylon ascend to global dominance. He emerged unharmed from a pit filled with hungry lions, as described in Daniel chapter 6. He provided divine interpretations from monarchs wielding absolute authority. And now he's engaged in something that genuinely reshaped my understanding of communion with God. He's examining the writings of the prophet Jeremiah, particularly Jeremiah chapter 25, verse 11, where the Lord declared the Jewish captivity would continue for 70 years. Daniel reviews the chronology and recognizes those 70 years are approaching completion. So he enters into earnest prayer. But what unfolds next in Daniel chapter 9, verses 20 through 23 is absolutely remarkable. He doesn't complete his intercession. He's directly in the midst of it, acknowledging national sins, petitioning for Jerusalem's welfare. And immediately the angel Gabriel manifests, not following Daniel's conclusion, not on a subsequent occasion, while Daniel is still speaking. Gabriel communicates something profound in verse 23. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth. Reflect on that significance momentarily. The very instant Daniel initiated his prayer, God dispatched the directive. Before Daniel could articulate his complete petition, heaven had already sent the response. But here's where the magnitude expands tremendously. Daniel was interceding concerning 70 years, the 70 years of displacement. He sought understanding about when his countrymen could return to their homeland. God provides something vastly exceeding what Daniel requested. Daniel inquires about 70 years. God reveals 70 weeks of years. That represents 490 years of prophetic disclosure, extending toward the conclusion of this present age as Scripture portrays it. A narrow inquiry receives an expansive revelation. Now let's examine what 70 weeks actually signifies, because this terminology confuses many students of Scripture. In Daniel chapter 9, verse 24, Gabriel announces, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city. The Hebrew term is Shabuah. It signifies sevens, therefore 70 sevens. Sevens of what, precisely? Here's the interpreted foundation. Daniel has been contemplating years, the 70 years of displacement. Years occupy his thoughts. Therefore, Gabriel communicates in sevens of years. 70 multiplied by 7 produces 490 years. And observe this detail. The number carries profound significance. Recall why Israel experienced captivity initially. 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verses 20 and 21 clarifies they had disregarded the Sabbath rest for their agricultural land. For 490 years, they declined to allow the ground to rest every seventh year as God instructed in Leviticus chapter 25. That produces 70 neglected Sabbaths across 490 years. Therefore, God permitted their captivity for 70 years, 1 year corresponding to each Sabbath they had bypassed. Now, Gabriel discloses God has designated another 490 years, but this time the objective differs completely. This period concerns restoration rather than discipline. Identical number, identical exactness, entirely different purpose.
In Daniel chapter 9, verse 24, Gabriel identifies 6 distinct objectives these 490 years will accomplish. This proves essential. Give careful attention because comprehending these 6 objectives illuminates precisely where we currently stand on God's prophetic calendar. Objective number 1, to finish the transgression. This signifies concluding Israel's defiance against God. Has that materialized yet? Does Israel walk in complete submission to their Messiah presently? Romans chapter 11 verse 25 informs us, blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. The defiance persists. This objective awaits fulfillment. Objective number 2, to make an end of sins. Not merely pardon sins, terminate them completely, eliminate their existence and influence. Survey the world surrounding you. Has transgression been eradicated from earth? Does wrongdoing appear to be diminishing globally? We both recognize the actual situation. This objective awaits fulfillment. Objective number 3, to make reconciliation for iniquity. Now, this one stands apart from the others. This one has been realized. The Hebrew term here is kafar. It signifies atonement. This represents sacrificial terminology, blood offered to satisfy divine righteousness. When Jesus surrendered his life on the cross, he accomplished precisely this. Hebrews chapter 9 verse 12 announces, "By his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us." The ransom has been supplied. The atonement stands finished. But here's a crucial clarification. The availability of a remedy doesn't guarantee the illness has been eliminated universally. The remedy requires individual application. The ransom remains accessible, but complete implementation continues progressively. This objective stands fulfilled. The atonement is accomplished. Objective number 4, to bring in everlasting righteousness. Not temporary righteousness, not incomplete righteousness, everlasting, permanent, continuing throughout eternity. Does righteousness currently govern the earth? Has justice become the universal norm? Does holiness characterize everything you observe? The response is self-evident. This objective awaits fulfillment. Objective number 5, to seal up the vision and prophecy. This signifies completing every prophetic utterance, accomplishing every divine vision, authenticating everything the prophets proclaimed. Has every scriptural prophecy reached completion? Do prophetic declarations still anticipate accomplishment? Substantial portions remain outstanding. This objective awaits fulfillment. Objective number 6, to anoint the most holy. The Hebrew expression is Kadesh Kodashim, Holy of Holies. This represents temple vocabulary, describing where God's presence resides in fullness. Does a temple currently stand in Jerusalem? Does God's manifest glory visibly inhabit the earth? Does Jesus physically occupy Jerusalem's throne? Not at present. This objective awaits fulfillment. Therefore, let's evaluate the evidence. Among 6 objectives, only one has reached completion, the atonement. That indicates the 490 years haven't concluded. The prophetic sequence has entered a pause. Duration remains on God's designated calendar. Now here's where the chronology becomes extraordinarily precise. Daniel chapter 9, verse 25 declares, "From the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks." 7 weeks combined with 62 weeks produces 69 weeks. 69 multiplied by 7 produces 483 years. Therefore, from the authorization to reconstruct Jerusalem until the Messiah appears would encompass 483 years. The authorization was granted by King Artaxerxes to Nehemiah approximately 445 BC. You can examine this account in Nehemiah chapter 2. Employing prophetic years of 360 days, which appears consistently throughout Scripture's prophetic measurements in passages including Revelation chapter 11 and chapter 12, 483 years positions us approximately at 32 AD. The month of Nisan, the precise month when Jesus entered Jerusalem riding a donkey, the precise week he presented himself openly as Messiah, the precise occasion when multitudes proclaimed Hosanna to the Son of David, as Matthew chapter 21 documents. Centuries preceding these occurrences, Daniel received this prophetic chronology. Numerous scholars find this correspondence remarkable. The precision warrants thoughtful examination.
But then something unanticipated transpires. Daniel chapter 9 verse 26 announces, "After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary." Following the 69 weeks, 2 momentous developments occur. First, Messiah is cut off. That Hebrew terminology indicates being executed, put to death, violently terminated. And observe the expression, "but not for himself." He doesn't perish for his personal transgressions. He perishes substitutionally for others. This portrays the crucifixion anticipated in Daniel chapter 9. Jesus appears within the chronological framework Gabriel disclosed. Days afterward, he hangs upon a Roman cross. Second, the city and sanctuary experience devastation. In 70 AD, Roman legions surrounded Jerusalem. They demolished the defensive walls. They incinerated the temple entirely. They dispersed the Jewish population throughout the nations, precisely corresponding to Daniel's prophetic indication. But here's what merits careful consideration. When did these developments occur? Not during the 70th week, following the 69th week. There's an interlude. The 69 weeks reach completion. Messiah is cut off. The city experiences destruction. But the 70th week doesn't initiate immediately. The prophetic sequence enters suspension. And according to this interpretation, it hasn't resumed for approximately 2,000 years. Why would God suspend his prophetic sequence? The Apostle Paul identifies this as a mystery in Ephesians chapter 3, something concealed throughout prior generations but presently disclosed. When Israel declined their Messiah, the prophetic sequence concerning Israel suspended. And throughout that suspension, God extended redemption toward the Gentile peoples. Romans chapter 11 verse 25 articulates it this manner: "Blindness in part is happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in." Observe that term, until. There's a boundary to this suspension, a termination to this interlude. When God's intentions for the Gentiles reach fulfillment, the sequence resumes. You and I presently exist within that suspension. This present moment, this current day, we're situated in the interval between verse 26 and verse 27, between Jerusalem's devastation and the concluding 7 years, between Calvary and the tribulation period. Every individual day throughout this church era represents a day of divine favor. The doorway remains accessible. Anyone can receive redemption through Jesus Christ, but the suspension won't extend perpetually.
Daniel chapter 9 verse 27 portrays those concluding 7 years. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate. Who is this individual referenced as he? Examine verse 26, the prince that shall come, whose people devastated the city. That describes Rome historically. Numerous scholars conclude this references a future ruler associated with that Roman system, not Jesus, a coming global leader frequently identified as the Antichrist. He confirms a covenant with many spanning 7 years. Numerous theologians conclude this development reactivates the prophetic sequence, not military conflict, not natural disaster, a covenant, an agreement, an arrangement that Israel enters anticipating security. But midway through, at the 3.5-year milestone, everything disintegrates. The sacrifices terminate. The temple experiences desecration. What Jesus cautioned concerning in Matthew chapter 24, verse 15, materializes. The abomination of desolation. The apparent guardian unveils himself as deceiver. And the concluding 3.5 years become what Scripture characterizes as a season of unparalleled difficulty. Here's why this carries personal significance for you presently. Israel exists as a sovereign nation again for the first occasion in approximately 2,000 years. Jerusalem continues under Jewish administration for the first occasion since 70 A.D. Preparations regarding temple service continue for the first occasion since the devastation. The prophetic components appear to be converging. The circumstances Daniel portrayed seem to be materializing. The suspension that has extended throughout 20 centuries could conclude according to God's sovereign timing, perhaps nearer than many anticipate. And when it does, 7 years remain, according to this prophetic interpretation. 7 years until transgression reaches its termination. 7 years until everlasting righteousness manifests. 7 years until every prophecy receives its authentication and completion. The sequence suspended at 69 weeks. It anticipates reaching 70. Numerous indicators suggest that moment draws nearer. The question isn't whether God will accomplish his declared purposes. The question is, will you be spiritually positioned when he does?